My name is Gundeep Singh. I'm the founder and CEO of the Change Initiative. The Change Initiative is basically a global supply chain for sustainable products and services. We have a flagship store or a flagship location in Dubai on Sheikh Zayed Road, around 40,000 square feet of space, where we demonstrate around 2,400 solutions. Actually, I started the enterprise as a commercial organization with a social core and a commercial, let's say, overview on top of that. And the idea is to make sustainability commercially viable. Sustainability should not rest on the shoulders of subsidies, regulatory framework, political agendas. It should be self-sustaining. It should be driven by commercial ethos, and at its core, there should be a sustainable message. It's not like a CSR platform. It's more like having a sustainable core and a commercial, let's say, veneer on top of it. It's very transferable. First of all, you try to create a template, which I call the cookie cutter template, for you to have a business model that can work in other places, and then replicate it. So we are at the process of actually creating that template. Now, to your point of microfinancing, yes, there are multiple options as you go down to microfinancing. Microfranchising, apologies on that. That's a word I haven't heard before, but I'm assuming it means that you could actually take it and replicate it everywhere in the world in a smaller fashion. Now, in terms of when you look at microfranchising, we could take parts of the idea and replicate it. We have already been thinking about it, and we are working on various parts of the idea on how we could trickle it down into various places and start to make it work. Our real example is that we are now going to Singapore, where we're going to take one part of the idea and replicate it. We might go to Qatar and take another part of the idea and replicate it. In other parts of Dubai and the UAE, we're going to take some parts of the idea and replicate that. I think the greatest mistake that I've made is probably is also the greatest success, is to actually deploy a lot of cost upfront, but also the greatest success, because at the end of the day, we have now a product that is world class. But if I had to do it again, I probably would be more careful on the cost structure of how I proceed. Cost is, in essence, the core of any business or a startup. But at the same time, till you invest effectively or adequately, you don't get the output or the product that you really need at an international level for you to succeed. So it's a yin and yang. It's both sides of the coin. You simply can't have one side and say it was a mistake. You could also say it's the biggest success. We managed to get the most sustainable building in the world by spending enough money, but it also means that we have to recover it now. It's going to take longer. I think the first thing is not to really go for just a social enterprise. Go for a commercial enterprise. That means you must have a commercial angle to it. Capital flows into commerce. It doesn't flow into social ventures. Charities flow into social ventures. So if you want a charity or an NGO, then it's a different model. But if you want to set up an enterprise, then you have to have a commercial angle to it. So I would say the first thing for an entrepreneur is to find what makes it work, what makes it tick, how do you get it to profit in a reasonable period of time. And then the social part can become an internal core to it. You cannot have the idea as just social and expect people to invest into it. You can expect people to contribute, to donate, but not invest. So if you're an entrepreneur, I believe that you have to first find a profit motive to the idea. I think it's everything. Everything is changing. I think if you read a recent article by Michael Porter, Shared Value, Innovating for Shared Value, in the Harvard Business Review last month, or over the years, his conclusion to shared value, I think every business is a social enterprise. They just don't know it as yet. And there are significant advancements and changes that are happening in these large organizations such as IBM, DuPont, Nestle, Unilever, where they are now reconverting into saying that the whole idea of the business should be a social core and the commercial angle should be on top of that. So to be frank with you, I think the world in the future is going to be looking at all the companies being very socially responsible and having a commercial part on top of that. I think the greatest impact is that you can make sustainability commercially viable, you can make sustainability work, and you can make money out of it. It's not an NGO. Secondly, I think what we have made an impact is sustainability is not going to die tomorrow. It's not the end of the world. It's not a sad story. It's not going to kill you. It's fun. It's enjoyable, and you can bring sustainability to a level where it can become a part of a lifestyle, rather than being a part of a place where you say, "Oh my God, end of the world today." I think you can't educate people, you can inform people. First of all, education itself is a skewed word. I think you inform people, you can make people understand, but the choices are there to make. What I can see is that as information flows to people, people make relevant and correct choices. So in my judgment, the way we have been building up the information pool and the knowledge pool, it is now coming to light that more and more people are interested, based on the knowledge, to expand their horizons and see what does it mean, how can they adopt it, and how can they use it in their real lives, and that's what it's all about. I think people educate themselves, you just provide the knowledge or the information. Massive. First of all, consumers are conscious all the while. It's just that they're conscious of the wrong things or the right things. It depends upon the context. So to assume that consumers are not conscious is probably wrong. But what I want to say is that consumers making the right choices is what matters. So consumers are conscious, they're aware, they understand everything, but they make the choices based on circumstances. And we have to actually fit the solutions of a social enterprise in their circumstances. I think what we mistake is that the consumer will make a choice for us. Actually, the answer is that we have to fit into the consumer's choices. It's a big difference. The real world is that you cannot expect the consumer to do everything for you. The business has to really work hard to fall into what they call as the evocation set of the consumer, for them to make adequate choices in the right direction. In today's world, it's completely the opposite. We're just trying to tell the consumers, do this for us. I'm saying to everybody, hang in there. You should tell the business, hey consumers, this is what we can do to fit into your life. Can you work with us for that? That's conscious choices. Quote me, all right? There is no ethical business in this world today. There is not.
Even the change initiative?
It's not ethical. You cannot define business by ethics today, because ethics are not defined today. Ethics vary from country to country, from region to region, from place to place, from religion to religion, from people to people. And there's no clear format on ethics. So there is no real ethical business. What you have to ask the question is there a business that exists which can actually lead, let's say, consumerism in line with nature and resources, or is there a business that cannot? All right, you simply don't have. Ethics is a very, let's say, extensively used word without any context to it. We call ethics, are you ethical? Well, of course I'm ethical. And do you know what the definition of ethics is? I can give you 100 definitions and they all sound right. I was in a university in the US and they had a program on ethics, and all it sounded to me was all the way that how to rob people ethically. So that's not the answer, right? So I think the business that actually physically builds its basis on clear fundamentals, on being able to understand the use of resources and actually work with nature and the consumer so that those resources are effectively used in the current context of how we can, and then applied into the future is what the answer is. So that's what I call ethics, if that's what you meant. That's what everybody does all the time. the CSR strategy is all about proving to people that we're doing good things, but it's actually nothing more than an additional marketing tool. We have to come back to basics and ask the question, are we doing the right things, and does it make sense? And the right things are not what is right for me or you, but it's right for how we live in harmony with nature and the resources that we have provided, and how do we ensure continuity of humanity and ensuring that the same lifestyle can be then propagated into the future for people like yourselves. We're having all the fun currently. Okay, my advice to students in Trinidad and Tobago who would like to pursue social enterprises is to first look at the core idea, establish the core idea very clearly, understand how it connects to people and nature, and commerce. Very, very importantly, commerce. How does it bring either break-even or profitability to a business model? That means they cover all their costs, and that either they make a little bit of money or a lot of money, but they actually make some money. And is the idea going to be having acceptance? One of the challenges in social enterprises is that you like the idea, but everybody else hates you. That's a big thing. So find something that everybody likes to do, and ride the wave, and enjoy the ride, and do good things and make money out of that.
My name is Tatiana Antonelli, and I'm the co-founder and managing director of Goombook. Goombook was actually created to push a little bit of environmental awareness in the region, in the UAE, to make people more conscious of what they can do here. Before, everything was related more to the Western world, and people would not feel engaged in local issues. So that's how actually Goombook was born, and then it grew into a green business directory, a tree planting program, and now we just launched an online store for eco-friendly and sustainable products. Basically, what we're trying to do, as I was saying before, is really get people to know where they live. We are in the UAE, a new country. People who come here sometimes just for a few years and maybe don't feel at home at the beginning and really don't realize the local issues. So what we're trying to make people understand is how they can have an impact all over the world. At the end, we are local citizens. We're going to live our lives traveling more and more, living in different countries. So our behavior is important wherever we are. It's just a matter of understanding what we can do in the place we're living in. And yes, we are in a desert, but the desert is a very rich environment. We can really help preserve it. And you do have different species in the flora and the fauna. Sustainability in the desert is a huge issue, especially when you talk about water, when you talk about energy. We cannot pretend that we cannot face this issue. So this is where we try to act. I think the first step is awareness and education. So even if it's a business, doesn't mean you cannot engage with other people. So you need to start at the grassroots, basically going out there, explaining your business also, for example, to university students, to make them understand what you're doing, what they could do in the future. Sometimes people think the business is something that first starts as a business and then you find like a social angle. Many times it's actually the opposite. You are passionate about a social issue, an environmental issue, and then you understand you can actually put it as a business, involving other people, and that's how you make the business sustainable, and that's where you have an impact. So you need to show this also to the people around you, to students, to consumers, and engage with your team as well. You need to spread the message. That's how you can have an impact. I think social ventures and social enterprises are connected to the local issue, the country where they live. Sometimes you don't face the same issues in other countries. So maybe that specific social venture will not be able to grow somewhere else. So it really depends on what you chose. If it's an energy issue, then definitely you can scale it. But if it's like the water crisis in the Middle East, then it's really something that you will be able to scale locally only, not all over. But you can create awareness, and you can also share your business case and apply them to other countries with other social entrepreneurs. Basically, the way we started was a very small team. That's how we're trying to make the business sustainable. We chose our causes, and then we slowly grew our team. In this case, we cannot, you don't know what's going to happen, what the reaction is going to be. So you need to take it step by step, slowly. You need to choose carefully your team to make sure that they believe in what you're doing. That's the most important thing, that they believe in it, that they like to do it, and that they will be engaged and engage other people. At that point, they're also able to work with you in a small team. And then when the business starts to grow, you're able to actually scale and grow with the business. But for me, it needs to be sustainable in the sense that you cannot go too big before you actually see the impact of your social venture. At the end, as Gundip said, it's very difficult to define what an ethical business is, depending on the region, on the country you live, on the religion. But at the end, you can sum it up with you need to care. And when you care about something, you will act. You will definitely make your choice and fight for them. Fight doesn't mean that you have to go out and really go against other people. It's more about explaining your own beliefs and why you're doing what you're doing. So ethical means it's not something you're going to pay for. It's not something you can find out there ready-made and you just bring it in your business. It's something that you find inside yourself. And you believe in it, and you care. And when you care, I mean, you're not going to harm anyone. It's just, it becomes ethical just by that. In our case, we started definitely communicating our ethicality. It's the first thing we put forward when we meet with students, when we meet with corporates, when we meet with individuals. We immediately identify ourselves. That's our business card. We try to make them understand that we care. And so we want them to care as much as we do. So yes, that's the way we communicate. It started as a very small business, and I have to say we didn't have much funds allocated for marketing. Marketing was more ourselves, well, the way we talk, the way we act, even in the office. I mean, when we ask people to be sustainable, you cannot ask other people to do it if you're not. So first you need to do it yourself and lead by example. So our marketing was to show other companies what we were doing. So the example is definitely the best thing you can do. Then later on, when we grew, yes, we started including the message also in our promotional messages, but we are the first wall you're going to see.
So the essence of the marketing strategy is really transparency, would you say?
Totally. Transparency, and that leads to trust. If people trust, then you can really work with them and create and engage with the community. And that's exactly what a social enterprise needs to do. It's engage with the community. So it's not anymore about you, it's about the community. something we're very proud of is actually one of our initiatives called the Give a Gaff tree planting program, whereby we raise awareness about the desert, the local environment, and the fact that yes, you do have trees out there. And the biggest impact we had so far is just in a couple of years we planted over 20,000 seeds, and that for us is fantastic. And that's where you see how people actually at the end, when they realize what is there, what they can do, they just get involved and engage, and it's just like an oil spread. Everybody then starts to join, and that was for us a great success. I believe that consumers sometimes don't realize the power they have just by the money they spend. The choice is made by how much money they spend on a product or on a service. There is a great example that happened in the 80s in Germany, and that shows really what consumers can do. Basically, the government started putting taxes on waste to citizens. They would charge you based on how much waste each citizen would produce at the end of the week. So citizens started going to supermarkets and refusing the packaging from the supermarkets. They would just remove the carton and keep it in the supermarket and go home just with the product. So then the problem was to the supermarkets. They faced a huge amount of taxes with the municipalities because they were having the waste. So they went to the suppliers saying, don't deliver anymore the products with all the packaging because we're going to have to pay for that. And that's how in 5 years' time waste has been reduced to just 20% of what it used to be. And it started by a consumer will to actually stop to be responsible for that, when actually they are the end buyers of what we're giving them in the supermarket from the suppliers. So they have the power to actually make the change. And in this case, unfortunately, it shows that it was because of a financial threat, basically. They had to pay and they refused to pay. But sometimes you don't need the financial aspect. You can do it just because you believe in it. Absolutely, but I wouldn't say it's just the business. I think it's the community responsibility. So it needs to start from us, from businesses, from government. We need to work together. We don't have to feel that it's imposed on us or that it's the stick policy. It needs to be a joint effort. So we are all responsible at the end of it. If sustainability is not achieved, we're all going to suffer. Businesses are going to suffer later on. They're not going to be able to sell their products. People are not going to be able to afford their products. So we all need to act together. It's the key. I don't know if education is the right word at all levels, at all ages. Education needs to start in schools, but then it's all about awareness and information. So you need to put information on your products. It needs to be available. And what we were saying before, it's all about transparency and trust. So you need to share that with your consumers. So if you are able to put that in the packaging of your products on your website, where people can actually go and read more, that is amazing. And you have so many researchers that actually show how much consumers are looking at that. I was amazed a month ago to see a father in a supermarket. He took a product, scanned it, and an app was able to tell him what ingredients were in that product. So transparency is really the key. And if the company is not going to do it, you're going to have apps and other people doing it for you and pointing the finger. So it's better to actually point the finger on yourself first than having other people doing it with you. Definitely. I think you need to categorize businesses. You have businesses who start as social enterprises, so they will have to start immediately communicating their own ideas and be transparent. Then you have businesses who are instead starting now to face corporate social responsibility, and I think they need to be very careful into installing a department or person in charge of it, and not thinking that corporate social responsibility is something that depends on marketing, because then the risk could become greenwashing. If it's marketing is very powerful. You can send out a message, but then it needs to be constant. So if it's not in the values of the company, then the next year the message might be different. If you go into social, then it needs to really be incorporated in your strategy, and you will have to communicate that regularly on a long-term basis as your own part of your own values. So it's not something you add 1 year and then that's it. So I would definitely suggest companies to make sure it's not a marketing tool. It is really a value that you add within your company. Don't go for a friend. Social enterprise still is a business. You will have to discuss on different things, and friendship is not for business from my point of view. You can create great friendship out of a business, but when you look for your teammate, don't think that your best friend is going to be your best teammate. You need to find someone who has your same values, who's ready to sacrifice the same time, and has the same punch and enthusiasm for the same thing. So that's very important. I think the first step is to believe in what you're going to do, and take it out of your heart and your values. Because if you don't believe in it, then it might be a good business, but then you might be tired of it because it's social, so it's very intense. It's not a product that the next year you change product. It's a vision, but then they need to be ready from different points of view. So they need to be prepared from a business point of view, from marketing. They need to understand the different tools they can use within their business, and understand that the team they're going to put together is very, very important. So to choose very carefully their team, and if they're not able to create a team because at the beginning it's actually expensive, they will have to outsource. So to research carefully what they're going to outsource. And something we've done is, for example, to try to minimize our costs, but sometimes you actually lose on quality. So invest in quality when you outsource. Don't be scared, because that's going to give you a lot after. If you go with low quality, you might regret it and will have to spend again money on that. So my advice is believe in it, work on it, be prepared. If your specialty is business or your specialty is marketing, then just create a team that will work together with you and outsource really good quality services.
I started making eco-friendly bags to reduce the use of plastic bags, and also to spread awareness in the general public and community to stop the usage of plastic bags and the harmful effects of plastic bags to the environment. I never thought of turning this into a business one day, but when I would, it would be very easy to take the eco-friendly bags to an industry level. Since every one of us has a responsibility of saving nature and the environment, every young person who is going to start a business should think and add some eco-friendly practices to his business. Because many businesses like industries emit harmful gases to the atmosphere, which consist of carbon dioxide, which increase the global warming and the pollution in the atmosphere. Conserving energy is very simple. If we all join hands and take small steps, we can make a big impact. Some of the ways we can conserve energy are: try to avoid the usage of elevators. To go short distances, try to avoid car, go by cycling or walking. Switch off all electric appliances and lights when not in use. Try to use solar power and other renewable sources. Plant a tree. It cools the particular area and it will also reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Many animals are dying every day because due to our human carelessness. Animals are a very important part of the environment. They are top of the food chain. If the nature or the animals are disturbed, this whole process can go wrong. Some animals are also endangered and may extinct. So we should all protect the animals. And no doubt, we all should join hands and save the planet, the one and only earth we have. We should make our earth pollution free and a better place to live. And I also would like to add that everything on this earth can be recycled, but not time. So take action fast before time runs out. I want to share a message with all of you who are watching this video. Plant more trees, use less water, do more recycling, and do not use the plastic bags.